You just bought a brand new Honda Civic. Congratulations. Now it's time for that first oil change. You want to take care of this the right way, but you don't want to strip a bolt, make a mess, or leave that maintenance due light stuck on the dash. Don't worry, I've got you. In this video, I'm going to walk you through a full oil change on this 2025 Honda Civic Sport. From the tools and torque specs to the exact oil and filter you need, plus how to reset that maintenance reminder light the right way. You don't have to be a certified mechanic to do this, but by the end of this video, you're going to feel like one. If you want your engine to last and you want to skip the hassles at the dealership, let's do this the OrtoTech way. All right, before we get started on this job, I want to teach you how to reset this maintenance light. I usually like to do this before I get started while I'm already clean. It helps you from keeping some grease off the steering wheel and things like that. The first thing you want to do is hop in your car, close all the doors, and then press your power button a couple times to get the instrument panel to light up. Once you've done that, you're ready to access the information system on here. Now on the left side of this steering wheel, right here, you've got a couple of buttons we're going to use. The home button. We're looking at the left side of this instrument panel, right where the tachometer is. So we're just going to press this button until we get to the settings here where you can see it's got this warnings, range and fuel, speed and time. We're just going to keep scrolling until we get to the maintenance on there. Once you've got the maintenance, you can press that wheel, the center of it pushes in, and then you're going to get to your oil life index. You'll see on there, and then your A1, B1 service and so on. This oil light has already been reset, but I'm going to go ahead and show you this. It's exactly the same process. You're just going to hold this center wheel button in for 10 seconds or so. We're going to wait for this thing to change from oil life 100% B1. It's going to give us some options. So it's asking us maintenance to be reset. And if you look through here, we can do all items on there. We can do item B only, item 1 only, all the way up to item 7. So this is asking for that B1 service also. I'm just going to go ahead and reset all items due to show you what this process looks like. We'll just go ahead and hit that, and it says reset complete. Okay, and that's basically the process, nice and easy. Let's get outside and get this oil change done. Before we get into this job, I did want to mention that I've created a video for you folks here on 5 of my favorite oil change tools, and 2 of them are right here, this Lyle funnel and then these oil filter pliers. So you might want to check that out, pop a card up for you, and take a look at that video before you get started on this oil change. I've got everything laid out here that we need to perform this task here on this Honda Civic. I've got 5 quarts of Mobil 1 0W20 oil. We've got a Honda oil filter. I've got a new drain plug gasket here. Some oil filter pliers. I've got a Phillips and a flathead screwdriver. This is a large flathead. I've got my trusty Lyle funnel here. I've got some brake measuring tools. I've got a torque wrench and 3/8 drive with a 17mm socket, 17mm wrench, the tire pressure inflator and pressure gauge. Got some rubber gloves for the messy part of this job, and of course some rags. May even want to have a little brake cleaner, and obviously you'll need some tools to get your car up in the air, a jack and some jack stands. And you'll probably need an oil drain bucket of some sort and some place to dispose of your oil container. Maybe refill your oil jug container here when you're done. So make sure you have everything laid out before you get started so you don't have to use your car to get over to the auto parts store and pick something up while you have no oil in it. Now that we've got that maintenance reminder reset, we're ready to get into the meat of the work here. Just find your hood release here in the center, get your hood open. One thing I wanted to let you know that's nice about some of these Hondas, they have 2 locations you can place your hood prop. You can put one at the low setting here, and it actually has an arrow on the hood to show you where to place it. Or you can open it up a little further here, and you can actually place it in here. And what that'll do is give us a little bit more room to work underneath the hood. This will be better for you as the viewer, so we have some proper lighting on the subject. Before I do an oil change, I like to check the oil level and condition. We want to know if the oil is low before we get started, and we want to see what it looks like. So this one here looks like it's all the way up to the full mark. There's 2 marks on here. And the oil condition is not too bad. A little bit dirty, but we'd expect that. This car's got probably about 20,000 miles or so on there. I don't want to put this dipstick back in all the way. I'm going to leave it out a little bit so it dangles. This is just something we do in the garage to let other people know. We've got lots of people running around fixing cars around here. This just lets everybody know there's no oil in the car. We want somebody inadvertently trying to move the car if it's in their way for some reason, or who knows what could happen. But this is a universal signal for all of us to let us know there's no oil in the car. Go ahead and take the oil cap off. You want to clean off the surface here. There's an O-ring on the cap to seal it, and then also the mating surface here at the top of the valve cover. It's a good opportunity to check all your fluids, top everything up. We'll go ahead and put some washer fluid in here. It's a good idea every time you do your oil change to take a peek at your air filter, see what kind of condition it's in. This one has just a couple of clips on here, and then you want to kind of lift this box up a little bit and pull it out. Now, I've talked about this in previous videos. If you haven't watched my 10 air filter mistakes, you guys should go watch that video. I talk about all the common mistakes I see when people are changing air filters, but one in particular here you have to be careful of. This doesn't have a lot of movement on some cars. This one has got a nice long snorkel on it, and there's not a lot of flex going on in there. But you have a potential, if you try to pull up on this, to break the bellows boot that's in here, the air intake duct that goes to the throttle body. So be extremely careful on that. There are times when you might want to just take the clamp off, pull the hose off, maybe disconnect the electrical connectors and the wiring loom harness that clips into the box to give yourself plenty of room so you're not breaking or destroying anything. All right? And you can see this air filter is really dirty. We're going to have to let the client know that this one needs to be replaced. Another thing you want to check here while you're doing your service is your battery terminals. So go ahead and pull this positive terminal cap up and take a look at your terminals here. Make sure they both look clean. This is the negative side and the positive side. If you have any corrosion on there, you'll want to make sure that gets cleaned up, and wouldn't be a bad idea to test your battery at that time if you see something on there. This car is brand new. I'm not going to be too worried about it on this one, but if your car's got some miles on it or a lot of age on it, a few years old, it's certainly a good idea to test your battery while you're doing an oil change as well. If you haven't seen my video on testing batteries, there's a nice little tool that's out there that you can use at home with your cell phone to help you test batteries. I'll put a link in the description below if it's something you're interested in, and you can check it out. Another one of the important fluids here is your brake fluid. You'll want to go ahead and just pull your cap off. Make sure it's not too dirty or dusty up here. If it is, you want to clean that off first. We don't want any debris in the brake fluid reservoir, but you can go ahead and pull the cap off. Check the fluid's color and condition, kind of like we did with the engine oil. Should be a yellow, really it should be a clear fluid, but it'll usually look yellow if it's in good condition. Start to turn tan to brown to black if it's getting really dirty. So keep an eye on the condition of it, and just make sure you're between the minimum and maximum levels. You'll see on here on the side it says maximum, and then below that it'll say minimum a bit. This one's full to the top. We're okay there. Another fluid you want to check is your engine coolant. Now if your engine's warmed up like it probably should be if you're going to be changing the oil, don't take the radiator cap off. It's going to be hot and pressurized, so we don't want to take this off. But you can certainly look in the coolant overflow reservoir and make sure it's in between the minimum and maximum levels. Down here on the side, you'll see it's labeled maximum and then minimum below that. This is also a great time to inspect your serpentine belt. Make sure there's no cracks in the ribs on there. This one looks good. All right, let's get this car up in the air. If you're working on this at home, go ahead and get it up on your jack stands so you can work underneath. Anytime you're performing an oil change service, at least for us in the garage, we're going to perform a free preliminary inspection for our clients. So we want to check all the things that we talked about under the hood, all the fluids, the belts, the hoses, filters. We want to check the tire condition. We obviously want to try to check the brakes if we can. Not every car leaves you the opportunity to do that, but this is a great example here for me to demonstrate to you what we might be doing in the shop without pulling the wheels. They've got a cool tool here. It looks something like this. And what this allows us to do is stick it inside through the rim and to actually feel inside there the gap between the brake pad backing plate and the brake disc. Okay, so those are both metal components, and the brake lining is what's in between. So by putting this in there, we can actually wiggle around, find one that fits tightly, and that gives us a good indication of how much brake lining we have left. These are all preset measurements on there. Obviously, if these are green, the green ones fit the best. These brakes are still good. If it's yellow, it means we're getting close, and then red obviously means that we need to put some brakes on this car. So this is generally part of our process that we're going to perform for our clients. Now, there are going to be some examples where these don't work. You're going to want to pull the wheels off and do a full brake inspection. If you need to do that at home, go ahead and do it. If not, these are definitely worth having if you've got a lot of access through the spokes of the wheel. So I'll usually start here with the yellow one in the middle just to give me an idea of where we're at. So I'm just going to take that, I'm going to put it with the fat end in towards the brake pad, and then I'm just going to pull it back and forth. And I want to see how much gap I've got. This is way too much gap. This is not the right feeler gauge size. Let's start off with maybe the smallest green one. And we'll put that in there and see where we're at. Okay, this one still has a little bit of movement. So I think we're going to go one more to our bigger one and see if we can get that in there. And that one just about fits good. So you can see this green one here, the mid-sized green one, was the one that fit in there the best. So it's going to give us a rough indication. There are some measurements on here. This one says it's 10 millimeters or 393 thousandths of an inch. That's plenty of brake life left. This one's got a lot of brake pad on it. Go ahead and finish that process around the rest of the car and check all the brake pads. Of course, you can only get to the exterior ones here. If you wanted to go from underneath, you could get to the interior brake pad as well, the inboard brake pad. And you can check inboard and outboard on each wheel all the way around the car. While we're walking around the wheels, this is a good opportunity to go ahead and set your tire pressures. Let's get into the meat of what we came for. We want to change the oil and filter on this thing. In order to access that, we've got to pull this cover off. We've got 4 Phillips head style screws along the front, 2 Phillips head style screws in the back. Then there are 2 flathead style fasteners on either side of this cover. In addition to that, there's a couple of clips that hold this cover on in the back. So once we've got all the retainers removed, we can slide this cover backwards. Let's take everything out. I'm going to start by taking these fasteners out. You just turn them a quarter turn and then pull them out. Quarter turn and pull them out. This is what they look like. Once you've got these out, you can set your 4 fasteners and your large screwdriver to the side. Now these fasteners in the front, the corners of this cover have an actual screw in here. So a screw has a pointy tip on it. So you want to make sure you know where those fasteners came from. Those are in the corner positions because these in the center are different and also in the back. This actually has a bolt in it, and a bolt does not have a pointy tip on it. Not only that, this bolt has got a bit of a shoulder built into it to allow some room for the plastic in between without crushing it. So we've got a bolt missing here, and then there's 2 more in the back. It's just important to remember the location of your bolts versus the screws because they're not interchangeable at all. With all the fasteners removed, this cover should slide back on these 2 tabs and then just release, okay? So when we put this back up, you got to make sure you line up those 2 tabs again. I'll show you when we put it back. But that's what your cover looks like. The plastic tabs go in these squares, okay? With this cover off, we've exposed the engine oil pan, which is here, and then the drain plug. And then we've also got over here the oil filter. I'm going to start by taking the filter off. I want to be using my oil filter pliers on here. And then just loosen this counterclockwise. And then I like to spin it just a tiny bit to get some of that oil to drain out into my bucket without making a mess. If you try to spin this off fast and all the way at once, you're just going to get a puddle of oil in your hand and all over the place. And I like to try to do these without making much of a mess. Once that's drained a little bit, we can just go ahead and spin this off the rest of the way. What I like to do, when I'm taking this off my last thread, I just like to hold it under there for a second to catch some of the oil. So you'll see as I pull this down, right about the last thread or so, when it gets nice and wobbly, just hold that under there because some more oil is going to come out. We want that in the bucket, not all over your garage floor. Take your rag up here and make sure you wipe this mating surface off. We don't want any debris or dirt, anything to get in between the filter seal and this flange. Go ahead and wipe off the rest of your oil in the pan too. And we'll get our new filter. We're going to apply a light coat of oil on our new oil filter and then we'll just thread it up there. I've got my new filter here. We just want to put a little oil. I've got a dab of brand new oil from the oil bucket right here. I'm just going to rub a little bit on our O-ring, a little bit on the threads. We've already cleaned up here. And we'll just go ahead and spin this on clockwise. We'll run that up. Now these filters are supposed to be hand tight, so you can feel it start to get snug where you really can't turn it anymore. I just do that plus a little bit tiny extra, okay? That should be plenty to keep the filter from falling off. Now we got our filter on. It's time to take the drain plug out. This is a 17 millimeter. I just like to put this on here. I put a little tension against the wrench so it's not wobbly and it doesn't fall off. And then just give it a little bit of pop, okay? That'll break it loose. And this should come out by hand if everything's installed properly. And now I like to hold the drain plug in while I'm loosening it because I'm trying not to make a mess here. And I'm going to get it out to the last thread like we did with the oil filter. And I'm just going to toss this drain plug in to the bucket and try to get all the oil in there in one shot. Okay? This is the best way to avoid making a mess. If you try to take it out slowly, it's just going to dump oil all over your hand and all over the place. It'll be dripping down your arm, into your armpit, and you'll be screaming and cursing. While I'm under this car and the oil's draining, again, a great opportunity to take a peek at some things underneath. Some things that I like to look at. I like to check a little bit of the suspension components, the drive axles, the CV boots, maybe the shocks and struts, see if there's any leakage or anything starting to develop on there. So under here, you can see with the cover removed, I can see the bottom of the transmission pan, there's nothing leaking on there. I can look at the inboard axle boot here on the driver's side, the outboard axle boot on the driver's side. I can see the full strut from under here. Same thing on the other side. There's another axle boot here, axle boot on the end by the wheel, and then we've got another strut here. So if you're under here and you got your cover off, take a peek and make sure everything looks tidy under here. You don't see any leaks anywhere, and you don't see any damage to any of these components. Go ahead and take it. You look at your rear shock absorbers, make sure they don't have any oil trails on them either. While the oil's draining, you want to take a look at your drain plug here. I like to wipe it off, make sure it's nice and clean, and you should be replacing your drain plug gasket. Now, something interesting on this vehicle, this one came out without a gasket on it, and that's really not a good idea. That's probably why we see some signs of leakage here at the drain plug and at the bottom of the pan. So whoever did this oil change last didn't even put the drain plug gasket back in, and that's a dangerous situation. It's hard to get the torque right on it because we don't have the crush within the gasket here. We're just relying on the aluminum oil pan, and it also leaves opportunity for a leak as well. So we'll be putting a new drain plug gasket on here anyway, but you would want to make sure you clean off your drain plug, remove your old gasket, and put your new one on. As soon as this is done draining, we've got a slow drip here, we'll go ahead and put the plug back in. Now that we've got down to a slow drip, we want to go ahead and wipe off the mating surface where our drain plug and gasket are going to sit. I've got my new gasket on my drain plug. It's drain plug cleaned up. This should thread all the way in by hand, and I hope you can see how easy this goes in there. If it doesn't go in this easy, your threads are probably damaged on your drain plug or somewhere in your oil pan. I'll tighten this up with my wrench just a little bit, stop the dripping, and then we'll get our torque wrench out, torque it down. I've got my torque wrench adjusted to 30 foot-pounds. That's the spec for this car. All right, let's go ahead and torque this gently till it clicks. One more time. It's 30 foot-pounds. We're ready to reinstall our lower cover now. If you guys are working on this at home, it's probably not a bad idea for you to add some oil now because you've got it on jack stands. You can go ahead and run the car for a few minutes. Just make sure that you don't have any leaks developing from your oil filter O-ring or from your drain plug. Not a bad idea to do that. We're going to double check ours anyway, we always do, but if you leave the cover off, it's a little bit easier to see. Sometimes I've got to go up there with a mirror or something and do a quick inspection on it. So, all right, we're going to throw this cover back on. Make sure you get the leading edge of this cover, the front edge, up and over this plastic piece first. So get that up and over and somewhat lined up. Then we can put the back up and get it caught on those two tabs in the back, and it'll hang itself there until you put the hardware in. Now you can start working your way around here, installing your fasteners the way you took them out. Don't forget these side ones, they have to go up, push into the plastic, and then you give them a little twist, 90 degrees, okay? We've got 4 of those. Okay, they should stop. They have like a positive lock on it, so when you twist that clockwise 90 degrees, you won't be able to turn any further. Don't forget you've got 4 bolts, 2 in the front and the center. And 2 in the back. And these are the bolts with the shoulder on it, not the screws. Lastly, our screws go in the front corners here. The screws have the pointy tip on them. There it is. I'll be using my trusty Lyle funnel. I'm going to screw this green adapter into our valve cover, install our funnel. This way we can go ahead and pour this oil in here. Now this car takes 4.2 quarts. This is the 2.0 liter engine. It's possible your vehicle has the 1.5 liter engine. If it does, it takes about a half quart less. So I think it's 3.7 on the 1.5 liter. So just make sure you're working on the correct car and you've got the right specs for it. Honda Civic here has a couple of different choices for engines. So we'll go ahead and get about 4 quarts in here. And then we're going to run it and check the level. If we need to top it up, we can. Just double check our level here. It looks like we can add a little bit more. We're looking pretty good right there. We're going to take this funnel out. Save that if we need to add a little after we've run it. Wipe our surfaces off again. Screw the cap on. Let's hop inside the car, start this up. We'll let it run for a minute or so, shut it off, let it drain a little bit, and then double check the level. See where our level's at now that we let it sit a minute. Looking good. Last thing I like to do, just clean up your area. I'm in a habit, I just like to wipe the valve covers down, just to make it look nice underneath. Make sure your dipstick's in straight. Wipe off your air box. And then if you may have spilled a drip, like I got one little drip here, I want to get that cleaned off. That's a wrap on this car. I've given you all the tips and strategies that you need to be successful. Nothing difficult on here. Just make sure you're following the steps I've included here. We've got lots of great content we've created for you guys here in this channel. Check out another video we've got here. We've got all kinds of stuff ranging from diagnostic type information, how-to information, and just general automotive information. So we really appreciate you sticking with us. Like and subscribe to the channel. Make sure you ring that bell so you get notifications of more videos. Every Thursday we've got a new one coming out. Tons more like this coming in the future. Thanks for your support.